Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Last week we learned how to pattern draft for this cami top, and this week I'm going to show you how to put it together. I'm using bias binding for the armhole finish and also just a little decoration at the back, and I hope you like it. This was a store-bought one, but I probably would have preferred to have made my own, simply because of the neatness that you get in the one that you make yourself. But here is the project, and if you give it a go, let me know how you get on, and let's get started with the project. This is the back, and we've just attached the bias binding. Now this is kind of folding back like so, and also lifting up the bias binding because this is 1 inch wide. Don't worry about it, we're going to sort that out when we're going to finish it. So I'm going to keep this one aside. We need to prepare the front. So before you attach the bias binding to the front, it's important that we already make these pleats that we need. So basically, let's just go ahead and make a couple of pleats. I've folded my folding at the top, and I've just done a basting stitch, just a hand stitch, just so that it stays in place. So basically, all of that is going to be your pleats. So let's just go ahead and pin it. Okay, that's how it looks. I've pinned it like 4 pleats on the side. Now, how do you know how much to pleat? Basically, you need about 6 to 7 inches, depending on how deep you want your neck to be. When you measure this curve, mine's coming about 6 inches, 6 to 6.5 inches. Now, the smaller you make it, the deeper your neckline is going to be. So this is almost like a trial and error, because when this goes and kind of attaches like so, this is going to be quite deep. Okay, if you want deeper neckline and you want lots of pleats, this is going to be, you know, just standard. But if you don't want it to be this deep, basically what you will have to do is just go and trim a little bit of this here. Don't kind of, you know, make the pleat go high up. It's not going to look good. All you have to do is just take this corner, or take this corner here, because if you reduce here, your neck depth is going to be reduced. So maybe an inch here, maybe an inch here. So hand tack this, go and hand tack the rest of your binding, and then maybe just put it on your body and see if it's going to be too deep. Okay, once you set a pattern, then it's going to be easier. The first time you do it, it's always going to be trial and error. Okay, so now we have got the back of the camisole. So what we will have to do is, remember the marking you've made, just go and start at that marking, 5.5 to 6 inches, and then just go ahead and kind of put this like so. I'm going to just hand tack this first and see whether this is fitting right, and then we're going to go and sew. I know we made the marking first, but unless it's on your body, you won't know how this is going to look like. So I'm going to hand tack this and come back and show you. Okay, I had to unpin everything because I put some tacking stitches, pins, and then tried it on. This was coming too deep, which means we need to kind of take this a little bit. So I folded the front panel into half, and I'm going to trim off about inch and a half, like so. So go ahead and change that in your pattern as well. And I'm doing the mistake, so you don't have to. Now what we're going to do is just prepare this into pleats like how I did before, like so. and I'm going to pin and then come back and show you. Okay, here I have pinned. Instead of making 4 pleats, I've made 3, 1, 2 and 3. The third is almost kind of disappearing. Don't worry about it because that's going to sit around the bust line. And also what I found out was that 5 inches was too less, so I'm going to go and do this for 6.5 inches. So let me go ahead and patch it like so. So this is going to be a little bit extra, but I'm going to trim that off later. So I'm going to leave about 6 inches of gap and start from there, pin all of it, and then we go to the sewing machine and attach it. Okay, here I have pinned the front to the bust binding. Now this is fitting perfectly along with the pins I tagged, and then I went and tried this on. So this is just the right amount of depth that I need for the neckline. So the same way, don't worry about the pleating here. The same way we attach the back, just go ahead and sew on the fold of the bust binding, attaching the front to the bust binding. We're going to go and do this on both the sides, and once we've done that, because it's exactly the same as the back, I'm not going to show you on the film. Once we've done that, we're going to take the other strip of the bust binding and attach this so that we have a nice thick white strap. So there is the pleating, and I've done some tacking stitches so they stay in place. I'm going to remove them later on. So we're going to go and sew on the fold here. Okay, here is the bust binding attached to the front. Now we're going to take, the next step is we're going to take the other part of the bust binding for each one of the shoulders, and we're going to go and place it like so, because they're both cut on the same length. So basically that is the pleated side, so we're going to place it like so and edge the edge, and that way if we sew on the fold, then we should be able to sew on the same line again. Let me show you again. So that's the fresh bust binding, that's the one that we've already sewn in. Place it like so, and on top of the stitch that we have sewn in, we're going to go and sew again. So that way this is kind of sandwiched in between, and both of them together is going to hold the fabric inside out. It's going to be neatly finished. Okay, and then we're going to go and stitch at the edge as well. That way the whole armhole is neatly finished. So you might argue, why do we need to take 2 bust bindings? Can we not take just probably 2-inch wide one and then kind of bind it like a normal bust binding? You will see later on it doesn't work the same. The small ones will work. You know, for this one you could go and bind it like this, because this is 1 inch wide, and you will get a thinner strip. That's absolutely fine. But if you want a wider strip like I'm making it, taking it 2-inch wide and then binding it won't work because it's too wide. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this and we go on to the next step. Okay, so we're going to go and sew on the same stitch we have sewn. If you're a little paranoid about you can't really see whether it's going to be on the fold or not, the little trick is just sew away towards your right hand side, sew a little bit away from the stitch you've already sewn. That way you will be 100% secure. You won't be going extra and you won't be ruining it. Now go ahead and do exactly the same on the other shoulder as well. Okay, you will see that by sewing in the 2 bust binding like so, it's kind of really neatly finished. All we have to do is put an edge stitch and the armhole is finished, because that way it's binded in inside out and you don't see any stitches at all. Okay, the only little snag is you will see that I'll show you from the back here, because your armhole is supposed to sit like this, but because of the stiffness in the store-bought bust binding, you can see this is sitting straight, and on the body this is going to kind of, you know, make a little pleat when you wear it. So how do we rectify this? This happens when you use a wider bust binding. If you were to fold this and iron it, this will sit in a curve, but because you'll be using a wider one, this is always the snag. That is the curve of the armhole, and we're going to try and make this sit flat. So when we do the edge stitching, it would be flat. Okay, so basically we need to do this on both the sides. I'm using a black thread so you can see on the camera, but usually you should do it matching to the fabric. Okay, where the curve starts, I'm going to start doing a little stitch. Try and take this as small as possible, because then the little wrinkly effect that you're going to get in a minute is going to be really neat and even all around. So we're going to do that right till the end, like so. You have to do this on both sides of the binding. Okay, and then just curve it so that you're happy. Let me show you on the other side. So you're happy with the curve, because all you're looking at is the outer curve. Don't look at this pleat. We're going to sort that out in a minute. Okay, so curve it like so, and once you're happy with it, what you're going to do is you're going to lock the thread. That's why you need to use a matching thread, otherwise you will see it. But if I use a matching thread, your camera won't pick it up, so I'm using a black thread to show you. Okay, so just a couple of stitches and that would be locked. Now what you're going to do, spread it around like so, and then when you fold it and then iron it, we need to just make this like little gathers and then go and press it. Once you press it, this is going to sit in a neat fold. Okay, and we go and do this on both the sides. This is not very even, but once I press this, this is going to be like spread around. That way you're not getting like proper pleats. I tagged it too tight, so I need to go and loosen it a little bit, and that way when you iron it, this is going to sit flat. And once you do that, we're going to go and do the top stitch. Let me go ahead and prepare all the corners of this armhole, and then we go back and do a top stitch. Okay, here we have both the side of the bust binding just tacked in with a stitch there. So all you need to do is just go ahead and iron it and then steam it. That way the whole thing's gonna kind of sit flat and it's easy to sew. And we're going to go and steam it on the other side as well. So now when you're going to go and put a top stitch, all of these wrinkles are going to be contained in properly. Let me show you the cowl side. Again, I've done it like so. All you have to do is just make sure you've got the armhole shape when you spread it around, and that's the key to make sure that you have the wrinkles right. So let's now go ahead and put an edge stitch all the way around. I've changed my foot to this edge stitching foot, and basically I'm just going to edge my binding like so, and I've chained the thread, both of them matching to the binding. And then just go ahead and do an edge stitch. So that will give you that neat edge we're looking for. Okay, so we have done the edge stitching for both the shoulders, so your top is all coming together. Now all you have to do is go ahead and join the side seams exactly like how you did with the t-shirt, and finish the bottom hem. Fold about 1/2 inch or so and do a zigzag stitch. I'm going to do this off the camera because side seam and bottom hem, you already know how to do it in a plain t-shirt, and come back and show you the finished product. I've done the side seam and I've also done the bottom hem. As you can see, this is a zigzag stitch, and the back is dipping ever so slightly from the front. The front also droops down because it was straight before. Because of the cowl neck, this kind of droops down. So there is your beautiful cowl neck camisole ready.